Hey everyone, and welcome to today's art stream. Fingers crossed everything is still working properly and hooked up correctly. It has been a couple of weeks, but I'm back. And yeah, today we are working on a character commission that's a little bit different to normal, because I don't usually get to paint cool dryads. So yeah, this is what we're working on today. As you can see, I've finished the line art. This was probably one of the more detailed line arts I've done lately. Many leaf, lots of leaf. So yeah, this is what we're going to be working on today. So we have the canvas and everything is all the right size. We're all good to go. So the only thing that's left to do is tidy up a little bit. We do not need the sketch anymore, and we can merge these two layers together. Making sure the line art is still set to multiply, that's very important. I'm actually, something I'm going to do right off the bat, which I don't usually start with, is I'm just going to brighten up the line art a little bit. We've got a lot of very bright, beautiful autumn colours that are going to be in this piece. And I think those are going to look a lot nicer. This doesn't look like a big change, but I'm just going to do it around the face and upper shoulder area for now. I think the line art being a little lighter is going to help this a lot. I am going to use a slightly darker colour around the eyes because we want those lines to really kind of stand out. Excuse me. And tiny bit darker on the lips as well. And in areas where we'll have a little bit more shadow. Kirsty, don't worry at all. No, it's lovely to do something different sometimes and work on a character who's unlike a lot of the other stuff I've been doing recently. So I was really pleased to dig into this one. Okay, let's start off being good. We're actually gonna name some layers. So first up is the skin layer, and this character is basically sort of autumnal silver birch themed, which is really pretty. I love the color scheme this one's got going on. So the base skin tone is actually, I'm gonna start with a very pale sort of greenish, almost into yellows, and we're gonna go from there and probably alter and tweak things as we go along. Thank you so much to the Bonafide Goop for the follow. I hope you enjoy the stream today. Okay, so let's get started. So making sure that our transfer setting is turned up because we want maximum opacity on this background layer. And I've already gone over the lines. Terrible. Coloring by numbers, failure. And we're just going to start blocking in this base skin tone. It's probably going to end up brighter than this, but it being like this shade also helps me kind of see for sure where we've gone. So we're just gonna go up to all the little nice curly details of the clothing here. Hey, awesome, thank you so much. I hope it is suitably inspiring for you. But yeah, this is kind of the standard process I use with all of the flat shaded style pieces. For example, the piece I uploaded a couple of days ago, which people seem to have enjoyed, the paladin in the greenish adamantine armor, that was also using the same process that I'll be using for this one. Yeah, the more time we put into being tidy and not going over the lines now, the less extra work we'll have to do later. But yes, it's definitely a good time of evening for chill vibes. I realize I kind of started streaming kind of later than I used to, but in a way I kind of like it. I tend to work late anyway, so. And it means most people who want to watch should be finished with work, or it should just be in a better part of the day. It's really hard trying to balance time zones when you're planning what time to stream. So I'm gonna do the base colors for the horns and everything while we're here as well. Just so at the end of the day it's the same kind of texture as the face. Whilst there will be a little bit of color variation, we might as well do it now. Especially because it's a little fiddly to block in with all the little branchy twigs and things. And yes, there is probably a quicker way to do this, but I am a masochist apparently and will always just hand paint and hand block out all of my base colours. Because then I know if there's a failing, it's my fault and not machine error. I know there's like ways in apps like Procreate and what's the other one that I really should use? No, it's not coming to my brain. My brain's too sleepy. I have spent today doing more mortgage and house and solicitor based stuff, so my brain is soup right now. Yeah, it's a soup kind of Wednesday, but we can do it. We can get through it. I was originally planning to stream on Monday, but I still have this like lingering like cold flu bug going on. And I was like, I do not have the strength to stream. And I was like, Wednesday will work. And I was like, oh, I could also stream Friday. And then I realized we're actually socializing with people. I know, it's crazy on Friday. But get one nice stream in this week and then try and do 2 next week. Oh, admin day, yeah. I wouldn't even choose to do admin day. But unfortunately, when you're trying to do a house move, admin finds you. You just have to submit to a certain amount of admin. But yeah, I think I'm nearly over this bug. I can't wait to be fully over it. But I'm over the worst of it. Annoyingly, I think I had the actual worst part of this cold whilst I was on holiday. Which was a bit of a pain. But, you know, I haven't had a cold like this year yet at all. So, yeah, it was bound to happen sooner or later. Become the solicitor. Gosh, I don't know if I could. I would not have the... Actually, I don't know. Maybe I could be bitchy enough to be a solicitor, nagging people. No, I hate nagging people. I'd be a terrible solicitor. I struggle enough, like, getting the executive function to do the paperwork I need to do just for myself. Let alone doing paperwork for other people. That sounds awful. I'm gonna pop in her shoulders, arms, and leggies while we're here, because then they'll be done, right? And because colour blocking is one of the most tedious parts of this process, then that's one of the tedious parts done, right? So, winner. Okay, true, but I'm also a perfectionist and would hate not doing a job well. So I would probably just end up combusting from the contradiction that would be my life. But hey, who knows? If I ever need that career shift, I'll have to consider it. This is one of those really nice shades of green that I would absolutely paint parts of my house. I love calm shades of green. Very pleasing. There's going to be so much green when I get to eventually decorate a house. So much green. Okay, we have some shouldies. Do I wanna... Let's just do the top of her arms. I did say I was gonna do her legs, so yeah, let's be good. Let's do what I said I'd do. Let's actually abide by the decree that I set for myself. Because like I said, the more of this bit I do now, the less I have to do later. But yeah, I hope everyone's had a good few weeks. As I say, it's been a little while since I streamed. I finally get to play D&D tomorrow. It's been ages. I'm so excited. I get to play my idiot warlock again, and I'm beyond hyped. I miss my D&D group so much. So that's exciting. I think we're gonna go find a unicorn or something. I don't know. But it's gonna be cool. And then the D&D game that I actually run might be starting up again soon after a hiatus of about 10 months. Which is awesome. I'm very, very excited for that. I have a bunch of terrain I need to put together for it because this is like my one in-person game and I go really overboard with it. Do I know who Fangirls are doing? Honestly, I would say like Blue Sky is where a lot of TTRPG artists have gone. I can't really recommend X or Twitter anymore. Honestly, the majority of artists have ended up on Blue Sky. And a lot of like my favorite, a lot of my mutuals are on Blue Sky. That seems to be where a lot of people are. There are still a lot of people on Tumblr, and Instagram is quite popular as well. But I will say that I think the majority of artists I keep up with have ended up on Blue Sky. I also like Blue Sky. It feels like a good place for a lot of creatives to gather. Whereas the problem is I find that a lot of artists are on Blue Sky, but a lot of clients are still on X and Twitter and haven't really migrated over yet. So like it's a really nice place to connect with artists, but if you're trying to find clients, it can be harder. Which is why I suggest to people who are looking for art to check out Blue Sky. Blue Sky is basically one of the alternatives to Twitter that came up during the times when a certain CEO was kind of ruining everything. And it's really nice. Like I say, it's good for creatives. It basically has the same structure as Twitter. And a lot of artists just post a lot of stuff on there, and it's a good place to kind of like find those who might have commissions open. I like it. Okay, let's do her leggies, the bits that aren't kind of going to be decorated with shapes and patterns and stuff. No worries. I hope you find the right solution. This outfit's so fun. I can't wait to really start rendering it properly. I love doing fancy outfits that aren't necessarily practical. It makes me very happy. Once in a while, I just want to paint something that's just expressive and fun. Doesn't necessarily need to be a sensible outfit for fighting monsters in. To hell with it. Hey, thank you so much to Aveda Crosswind for the follow. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Kind of a gentle easing back into it after taking some time off, but yeah, we've got to get the momentum up and running again. Start streaming regularly again. Stop having illnesses again. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm glad to have you here too. Also, the temptation was very strong to just continue playing Genshin Impact this evening. The new expansion is so pretty. Do expect some fan art in the upcoming weeks. I've already got like 3 characters I want to paint, and I just have not had a chance. But I've been kind of like collecting ideas and planning things I would like to bring to conventions when I eventually, hopefully, get into one this year. So please, as I say, feel free to make suggestions for stuff that I could draw or make that you think you would buy if you saw it on a table at a convention. I'm very, very picky with stuff that I do fan art of because it takes me so much, like, I need to be really into the thing to do fan art of it. Like, the motivation needed is very high. Hey, Bad Screams! Thank you for stopping by! Oh, you work so hard. I'm not jealous. You work grueling hours, my friend. Yeah, so, my VODs, in the past, I popped them on YouTube. In fact, let's actually finish doing this leg so you're not just zoomed in on, like, crotch for a few seconds. Then I'll grab the link to my YouTube because, historically, I've uploaded VODs there. I've uploaded one of the new ones recently, and I'm going to start uploading VODs of my other recent streams up there as well. And if my Genshin Impact obsession continues at this current rate, I might end up doing some lore readings, because I used to do that for Destiny 2 back in the day, because I love me a little bit of narration and voice acting. So I used to do Destiny 2 lore reads. And oh boy, howdy, is Genshin full of them. And I like that kind of lore, so maybe I'll go back to making those for a while, because they were so fun and chill to make. We'll see. But yeah, I will also, as I say, have my art process VODs uploading more frequently. How did you? It's the scale mail lady. The scale mail lady. Yes. Actually, the finished piece is up now on my Blue Sky Twitter and Insta, so you can go find it there. It was such a joy to work on that piece. I love green. Okay, green is like my favorite color. You can probably tell. I love just shades of greens and stuff. It makes me so happy to paint. So that one was so satisfying, and yeah, it seems to have been quite popular. So, am I gonna sneeze? Oh, excuse me. I did sneeze. But yes, that one is all finished, and yeah, you can find it on most of the regular platforms. Thank you, everyone. I am still sick. Oh, thank you so much, Cyberspectre, for the resub. You are the best. I love you all so much. Genuinely, thank you guys. You guys turning up and supporting me here makes this possible. Even, like, you know, every subscriber is sacred. And I really mean that. Right, I will get that YouTube link in a sec. I'm just gonna finish getting rid of these little white lines, because then we finish the boring part, which is the color blocking, and we can move on to something interesting. Ugh. Obviously, this one's going to be a bit different to normal, because I won't be obviously shading her hair the way I usually shade hair, because she has leaves for hair, so it will be shading leaves. I've had a lot of leaves lately, now I come to think about it. The green scale mail was basically leaf. Right now, my life is leaf. Okie dokie. So, with the skin tone parts blocked in, I will grab the YouTube link, and then we'll move on with the fun part of making it actually look like a nice, real, living skin, I guess. It still sounds very strange. Let me find my YouTube. Here it is. Here is my YouTube. As you can see, one of my new pieces, whoops, let's not hit the microphone, is up, as well as all the old videos I used to make on Destiny. Oh, that was a good time. But yeah, I need to start uploading process vids more frequently. Oh, Cyberspectre, you're so kind. Genuinely, it's so nice to have you back as well. Exciting stuff happening lately. I am in the process of moving house, because more space is needed for messy hobbies and dog. So I'm moving out of Bristol. I'm heading to Wales, which is really, really lovely. It's like a really lovely area we're going to. So we're basically in paperwork hell right now. So that's less fun, but still exciting. Okay, so let's begin. I'm not going to be super specific because the internet's weird, but like the south of Wales. Right, so with this character, we are first going to do a little bit of jiggery and pokery, because even the skin is meant to be sort of like a silver birch tree bark, so it's very, very pale, except for where it isn't, because we're going to have the pigmentation and almost like striping on some parts of the skin. So I'm just going to almost add like a bit of a glow to the center of her face, and then just blend it in so it's nice and soft and not too harsh, like so. Thanks for joining, Bremen. I hope you have a good afternoon / evening. Yeah, so I don't think it's as far as Pembrokeshire. But yeah, it's gonna be really nice. Assuming the house isn't falling down or something crazy. We haven't had the survey back. In fact, I think the survey email literally came in as I was starting streaming, so I'm gonna look at that later, I guess. Alright, so because what we're doing here is we're shading a kind of a skin tone that is not a regular skin tone. It's kind of green. I'm not gonna do it the usual way because I can't kind of like assume the usual colors will work. So I'm actually gonna use a similar approach that I use for shading other things, which is to have a multiply layer. So that is what we're gonna do. Oh, sorry, Bremen. I misunderstood. This is a problem when you're trying to work and read chat at the same time. But hey, no big. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the blush in the center of the face. The nice thing about doing it this way is I can adjust this. Like right now, this is much too dark. So I can mess around with it a bit. And I can go and blur it the old-fashioned way. If I want to. But I don't actually like... I think blur ends up looking too fluffy around the edges, and that is a technical term. So, in my usual fashion, I'm going to do it by hand, because I'm a glutton for punishment. But no, other exciting things. I've been doing some cool LARP projects since before I started streaming again. I'm currently in the process of writing a LARP for Smoke Festival, which is a London-based LARP festival that runs in that runs in January, which basically brings together game writers from all over the world and is really fun. And I know the people who run it. So I'm taking part in that, which means I need to actually get off my ass and write my project. So that'll be fun. I'm actually gonna make this a little brighter just so we get... Okay, see how I feel about that. So that'll be really good fun. I'm basically writing a LARP inspired by Monster Hearts and a few other things, and it'll be a good time. Yeah, so I do a lot of Nordic style LARPing, which is a lot of fun. I do enjoy it a lot. Right, I think I'm gonna lighten this up a bit because I don't want the blush to be too heavy. I just want the suggestion of warmth, so I think that is fine. Then I'm gonna go ahead and just merge that down with the skin, make a new layer for the actual shadows, and we're gonna get on with those. Yeah, Monster Hearts is amazing, and I wanted to write a game that was a bit Monster Hearts, but also a bit dark, twisted, because that's how I roll. I kind of wanted the energy of, like, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, but, like, unpleasant. And it's gonna be quite, like, a personal project. I'm very excited to do it, but, yeah. The idea is different folkloric and supernatural entities who have basically been tossed into a, you know, like a, you know, ex-academy style the kind of institution where women with hysteria would get sent in the Victorian Edwardian kind of periods. Because what else is Monster Hearts a great allegory for but, you know, systematic oppression and a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, eventually I will get around to writing that properly. I like my dark stuff. But no, I'm actually off to a happy LARP later this year. The end of October, I'm off to a LARP called Mayfair, which is basically Bridgerton if it were a LARP. So naturally, I'm going to find my perfect match of the season and make an absolute fool of myself because it's not meant to go well. Nordic style LARP is see, this is a very loaded question because it's very hard to actually answer this, and everyone you ask will give you a different answer. But Nordic style LARP doesn't use like statistics. It doesn't have crunch the way like a lot of Boffer and Fest LARP does. There's no stats. It's a lot more, you don't create your own character, you are cast as a character, and all the characters are tend to be written and designed very much to work together. and have specific links already as part of the story. And it tends to be a lot more about subversive and transformative themes and like exploring really dark and cathartic stuff. It's a great time. I consider a good Nordic game a win if I spend like the immediate time after the game on my knees weeping in a corner. That tends to be how it goes. Anyway, let's continue popping these shadows in. Let's do one coming down under the chin. But the Smoke LARP Festival is great because it has all different styles of LARP from around the world. It's really nice. There's a lot more explorative, like, abstract stuff there as well. Oh yeah, there are Warhammer LARPs. I've seen them. There are a lot of those. But a lot of Nordic LARPs hit heavy, not because they're grimdark, but because they're very realistic and deal with incredibly heavy but very realistic themes. For example, I've done a few historical ones playing gay or trans characters where they get, you play through a story of living with that, living that lifestyle. And it's really heavy, but it's a very it can be a very profound experience. How do I make fantasy skin feel real? That is a very good question. So the kind of approach I'm using right now is, as you can see, we've got a more fantasy skin tone, like with the green and the kind of pale birch colors. So the way I'm shading is I'm using a multiply layer over the top. And I'm shading using very, very faint kind of purple, pink, magentas, and that's because if you have regular lighting and shadows, you often find that shadows tend to be that kind of purple tone. So if you use a multiply layer to do your shadows on top of your colors, you can use that purple tone, and that will affect the layers underneath, but you won't be permanently changing them. So if I decide actually this isn't working, I can just change this without messing up what I've done underneath, and I find that's the easiest way to sort of experiment and get a feel for fantasy skin tones in a way that works for you. Otherwise, I'd say looking at things. So for example, if I'm painting a tiefling with very vivid orange skin, I might observe the way light kind of affects an actual orange, because that's like the closest thing to like skin with that amount of vibrancy. And you can see the way the shadows work and the colors that would work on an actual orange. That's just an example off the top of my head that sounds ridiculous, but it kind of works. And yeah, Cyberspectre, exactly. It can definitely have a lot of that, and that's why I think a lot of the LARP community is overwhelmingly LGBTQ as well. At least this kind of LARP is. Okay, so we've done that kind of first layer of shadows here. I think I'm going to go ahead and just pop some on the horns as well. We'll be adding a lot more tone variation and color to the horns as we go along. But this is just some shadows to sort of get us started. Yeah, definitely. It's a similar thing I use for when I'm painting fabrics or clothing, which is basically any color. I use the trick with the multiply layer. I just find it's a very useful multi-purpose tool in the toolbox for painting shadows that don't feel flat. I think my biggest tip, if you take away one thing, do not paint shadows just with like grays and blacks. Very, very rarely are shadows ever like that devoid of tone. Shadows can often be incredibly rich. And if you paint just with, for example, if, this is my skin tone, if I just shaded it with a darker version, it would look really flat and lifeless. The important thing is, because I'm shading with the pinks, my shadows actually become a lot more orangey and warm. And that's what kind of gives you the depth and kind of makes the things look lifelike rather than undead. Now, if you're painting an undead character, you might want it to look more lifeless. In which case, absolutely use much more desaturated shadows. Ugh, I haven't painted enough undead characters. Can someone please commission me to paint like a Dhampir or something? Who am I kidding? I love colourful characters best. I will, if I got like a lot of grey characters, I'd then complain and miss painting tieflings. I always enjoy tieflings. Tieflings I will never not love painting. Okay, there's some basic shadows on the horns, and I think for now I'm going to focus on the head and hair for this stream and not worry too much about the other areas of skin. But as you can see, we've got that nice first layer of shadows coming in. Now there is a little more we can do here because we've got this nice blush color I should say. Hey Jasmine, thank you so much. Because we've got this nice blush color on the cheeks, there is somewhere else we can bring that in, and that is coming down just the cheekbone area there, because that can add a little definition to the face as well. And what you can also do is add a little highlight underneath that cheekbone area. Sometimes this works for characters, sometimes this doesn't. I tend to experiment with it and decide if I think it works for the character's face shape. In this case, I zoom out. I think it does, but I think I might change the shape a little. A little softer, a little coming up through there. Whoops. That was not what I wanted to click. Don't worry, folks, I can fix it. You can tell I've been LARPing a lot recently because I'll just jump into weird accents. It does make me excited to DM again. It's been way too long. I think that adds a little bit more definition to the face than we had before. However, we do just need to calm this highlight down here because it was a little bright. Alright, as you can see, we have this slightly lighter tone up there. We can just use a little bit of that on the chin. Just for a tiny bit of colour variation here and there. But I think keeping it subtle is going to serve us well. Right, Cyber Spectre? I know, right? Every time, I'm just like, oh, but I could be playing a tiefling right now. Thankfully, there are lots of other things I have worked out I enjoy just as much. So, you know, the struggle is real, but we carry on. Yeah, Equinox, I think you are. I think you're the only time anyone has commissioned me a tiefling who doesn't have horns. So congratulations on that front. Now going in with slightly darker shadows, this will start helping some of the details pop a little bit. Just using it at the corner of the eyes to give the eyes a little bit more depth and definition. Also makes them look a little bit more kind of doe-eyed and kind of, I think it gives them a bit more charm. A little bit more shadow down under the lip, and then we're going to go back, grab that darker purple again, and bring it here, under the neck, where we're getting the darker shadows. Cyber Spectre, exactly, especially having seen the art of the new Critical Role characters, that beautiful pink tiefling. And honestly, so I'm a massive fan of using virtue names for tieflings, and calling a tiefling dressed like as a frilly nun tyranny is just frankly a genius move. And I wish I'd thought of it. Like, what an incredible character name for that concept. Ugh, delightful. But yes, I don't doubt that, it's so funny, after, you know, when Jester was really popular during Campaign 2, I definitely saw a lot more Tiefling commissions then. So I'm curious as to whether I'll suddenly get more Tiefling commissions when Campaign 4 gets going. Oh, thanks for the reminder. I really want to make an emote for... Damn it, save, Rachel. Don't forget. And I'm going to actually go ahead and add just a little bit more saturation in a few areas, because this can also add a lot of life to a piece. Just finding certain shadows in areas where saturation would be higher. You often find this around the ears, especially, to the point that I'm actually going to go ahead and grab the slight blush skin tone we have, and we're going to use this kind of in the ear here, because I think that's cute. It really is the Arizona iced tea theme. How much do I charge for commissions? Excellent question. My previous info doc. Let me find it for you. I'm currently closed for commissions, but based on my current productivity, let me find. I'm thinking I'll probably be able to open comms again end of November, start December. It will kind of depend on the come on, where is it? Commissions. There you are. It'll probably depend on the house move stuff and how that's going. But when, you know, because I'll probably take a couple of weeks off either side. Here is my commissions info. Bear in mind some of those numbers might change a little because, you know, inflation and cozy living crisis continues to crisis. But I don't anticipate them changing much. But yeah, so my hope is that I'll be able to open commissions towards the end of this year, which would be great. Man. I would like to, I think I'll probably enjoy doing some Critical Role fan art again. I did some way back when for, I think I did it for Exandria Unlimited actually, which was a wild time to come in doing fan art. And just haven't had time to do any since then, but it could be something I look at doing. Okay, so I'm quite happy with these shadows. I'm gonna go ahead and start adding some slightly darker shadows up to the horns as well. Usually just in kind of the little recesses and areas where they're naturally going to be deeper. We don't want to go too overboard and kind of use too much here. Ugh, I love Abria's character too. Fun fact, I've done character art for Abria before for like some streamed games way back in the day. And Abria is so lovely. Like such a sweetheart. So yeah, I totes need to paint some of those characters. Since I want to do more fan art this year, it's a pretty good option. Just a little bit up there. Okay. Yes, I'm quite happy with those horns. Oh, Sam's pretty mage boy, and also, oh my god, as usual, Taliesin Jaff has got me. I love their terrifying looking Rakdos-esque masked mime creature. Amazing. After my soul. Okay, we have some nice shading. Let's do her lips. Let me just, I'm gonna refer to the references for this character. Lovely, okay. Her lips are going to be using these slightly reddier tones that we've got going around here, making sure we're in. Okay, they're actually going to be a more vivid orange, which I'm really going to enjoy these oranges. It's going to get me right in the mood for autumn. I'm so ready for autumn. I enjoyed summer, but I'm going to admit I am a cold weather person at heart. I like to make hot chocolate and snuggle. What can I say? And I think the lower lip is going to be similar, but a little lighter. Oh, I quite like this nice sort of soft pumpkin color. Yeah, that's going to work for me. Hey, Draconis Rage! Oh no, that's annoying. Damn you, Twitch, don't be mean. Yeah, Taliesin, I honestly respect the grind of making his characters so hard to cosplay, but they're also really beautiful, so I respect it. Right? It's so gender. It just looks so fun. Definitely a fun one to paint. I really want to do fan art of that character. Like, you can probably see by, like, I've done some art lately, like, so a little bit of personal work doing some development of my own D&D character's backstory, and he spent a lot of time with the Rakdos, because the setting we're playing in is based off of Ravnica. So drawing like slightly circusy fits for his costume and stuff is like my favorite thing to do. I love kind of goth circus outfits. I have two modes. It's cozy cottagecore or circus goth. These are like my two modes. Hey, welcome. Yeah, this is for Rick. I desperately want to have time to finish some of my design pages for Rook because I have so many I've started and never finished. Because I suck at finishing anything that's my own work. I've got friends who keep urging me to make an art book for expos, and I'm like, would anyone actually, like, buy that, though, if I had an art book? It feels like something that a more established artist would have. But if people would buy an art book that contains all of my personal stuff and sketches, then I might consider trying to put it together. It all depends on if I can kind of, if it's worth the investment up front, because this whole convention stuff seems very scary. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, maybe I will consider it, because I do have a lot of stuff I could throw into it. I also started the next in the line of my houseplant botanical dragon series. Because I did, obviously, Monstera Deliciosa, the big Monstera variant. But I was like, you know what would be cute? A baby one. So I'm doing Monstera Minima as, like, a baby version. Obviously, I know those two species aren't necessarily IRL connected that deeply, but I'll do it for the cute art. So, little baby dragon, botanical illustration will be coming out and adding to my little botanical dragon series, which I really want to try and get, like, at least 9 done, so I can do a little poster of all the little houseplant critters. Because houseplants are definitely one of my other, like, secret unlockable interests, I guess. That makes no sense. I'm not an NPC, I swear. Okie dokie, let's go ahead and add a little bit more definition to these eyes. As you may have noticed, we are on the overlines layer. Woohoo! Yeah, I'm thinking, like, the little prints of these dragons, they're kind of, they'd fit in a perfect square, so doing very small square prints, so that if people want to, they can put them, like, tessellate them together, or you can just have them as individual in illustrations. So, yeah, that's something I am in progress of working on. For now, though, let's go ahead and add some highlight under the eye. This I find really helps the eyes look have a lot more depth and really kind of pop, for want of a better, slightly more visceral word. And then what we do is we grab this shadowy color, and as you can see, we're now technically on top of that shading layer. So this is the point at which changing the shading dramatically would be a bit problematic. And then just blending that in. And then we can do the same with the highlight if we feel the need to blend that, which I am going to do here. As we zoom out, that gives the eyes a little bit more definition. Oh, have fun! Enjoy Bleach! Gosh, that's a blast from the past for me. Hey, the Bean Beanson! Welcome! I am good, thank you. How are you? It has been a little while. Hope you have had a nice couple of weeks since I was last streaming. So, around the eyes, we're actually going to have, I think we're going to have a little bit more kind of makeup and coloration going on. No problem at all, Bremen. So, let's go ahead and start getting a bit more colourful. And we're going to go between the shading and the lines here, and we're going to bring in some colours that we've used elsewhere, like the nice orange from around the lips. When you're kind of building a colour palette for painting characters like this, it can make the piece look a lot less cluttered if you use colours you've already used elsewhere, to kind of keep a nice ongoing palette rather than constantly introducing new ones. So that's why I am sort of borrowing this from down below. And we're basically going to use this like eyeshadow. I'm not going to lie, this is literally the same process that goes through my head when I very rarely do makeup. I literally apply it the same way I do when I'm painting a face. It's probably not the way you're supposed to do it, but it's the way I do it. Nice, orangey, cute eyeshadow. Hell yeah. Nice. And I think we're going to keep that orange going a little bit. Because I want to. And occasionally we're going to, you know, make it a little bit darker in a few areas. Ooh, wow. I hope your session went well. I hope it was cool and exciting and good stuff happened. Okay, we're also gonna have kind of a few little flecks. Go down to a 5. Just have a few little markings under the eye. Add kind of this nice fiery brightness to them. There we go. And then we're going to go up to the overlines layer and we are going to grab a nice dark colour for the eyelashes because we want them to stand out and not kind of get lost. Because we're going to have a lot of contrast in this piece with some very dark tones to kind of emulate the way that with silver birch you have the very dark kind of stripes and tones that take shape. Then a couple of little eyelashes over this side. And then when we zoom out, you can kind of see that those eyes are now looking quite nice and expressive. So it's time to actually paint her eyes themselves. She's got very fiery orange eyes, but a fairly regular colour humanoid sclera. So we'll start with that. So just going for that base tone. Obviously remembering that we actually have a bunch of multiply still on here, so we can get rid of that from the bottom side. But what we can do is we can kind of keep it in a few areas just to continue giving us some shadows. And then back to the skin layer, I actually want to use these kind of orangey tones just around the corners like this. Wonderful. And then we can go ahead and block in the iris. And we're going to start with this nice reddish pumpkin colour. Oh, it's cute. I love these colours. Oranges are great. Then obviously we're going to end up with this brighter orange. We're going to almost do like a bit of a sunset gradient here, like so. And jump up to the overlines layer because we are going to need pupil. And her pupils are like ever so slightly kind of cat's eye. Like so. It's very cute. I like a character who's a little bit creepy. A little bit spoopy. Then, oops, making sure we're on all layers. I'm gonna go ahead and grab like a brighter kind of amber color just to add a little bit of extra detail. I'm just gonna go down to a real small brush for this because I like to do almost like a detailed kind of ring around the pupil, like so. And just bursting out. A little bit Eye of Sauron, really. But they're cute. Eye of Sauron, but cute. And something else I might quickly do is just a wee bit more shadow coming down from the eyelid itself. Just get that nice contrast in, and then back on the overlines layer, I'm gonna grab an almost white tone to give us a little bit of shine on the eye. And there are her eyes. She's watching you. Okay, so the next thing to do are going to be her eyebrows. And the fun and curious thing about her eyebrows is they're going to be a little bit leafy. As you can see, we have this kind of general leafy vibe going on. So once more, we're going to reuse an orange we've already got elsewhere. And start with the base of that. And then we're actually going to probably do this in the overlines layer because it's the easiest place to kind of do it. Grabbing a darker color, kind of giving these the more leafy look than kind of the usual kind of hair that you would expect from eyebrows. Just so you kind of look a bit like tiny leaves. Let's go ahead and save again. Okay, and I think it's time we added a little bit of detail and love to the horns. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this shading layer on as its own thing for now because we're going to want that later. And we've also got this layer here, which can stay. What I'm going to do is we're going to start with that skin tone. We're actually going to move into a more cold green, a lighter color, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to have a bit of a gradient where the tips of these horns are going to be brighter than the base. Have a slight colder energy. I might even add a little of that to the tips of the ears as well. Because what we're now going to do, because there's many stages to this process, is we are going to add the silver birch stripes. So again, I'm going to start with a brown that we've already used elsewhere, rather than going straight to the really dark blackened colors. We're just going to gently start adding the kind of characteristic stripes that you would expect on a silver birch. And this will be a bit of a trial and error process of working out where they look best, where we like them, but I think this is working. Thank you for joining, Equinox. I hope you have a chill work day ahead. But yeah, just adding these little markings. That give us those. Yeah, the bark on silver birches is gorgeous. I'm a big tree fan. Tree nerd, as you might not be surprised to hear, considering I'm working on an entire series of art about plant dragons. Silver birches have always been one of my favorite trees. Not an all-time favorite, but you know, high up there on the list of best trees. Okay. Now we can go in and make some of these stripes a little bit harsher, a little bit darker. But I don't want to go too harsh with this because this gives us room if we want to make it darker later on. What? Plants are cool. Druid is my second favorite class. Plants are great. Some of the darker little stripes around as well. But the cool thing about having these sort of stripes is you can use the shape and curve of them to help denote the kind of perspective that you've got for these kind of branches. There we go. See, this is I have not played Pathfinder, so just a few more little markings there. Cool. Alright, I'm very happy with how this is coming on. The next thing we want to tackle is probably going to be her hair. So, looking at this and looking at the reference for this character, we're going to start off with kind of the kind of spring yellowy, the like late summer kind of yellow tones, and then move through to the fiery oranges. So first things first, time to make a new layer. I'm just going to, as a placeholder, just use this orange to get us going. And making sure we are on a high opacity. Hey, thank you so much, Quiver. That is very, very kind. And thank you for the reminder. Saving is big and clever and important. Thank you so much for the cheer. That is extremely kind. Ugh, I have really lovely viewers. Seriously, I've literally never had an issue on the channel, and that's just really nice. Okay, let's do this lovely crown of leaves up here. But yes, I get to play Rook tomorrow in my regular D&D game for the first time in weeks, so I'm very excited for that. He's gonna go off and make bad decisions. And then on Friday, I'm having a board games meet up with people, which will be awesome because it's also been a while since I've played board games with people. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. It hasn't. It's been a while since I've played board games in my own house and hosted, and I am a host at heart. I much prefer hosting things to traveling. We're just going to block all of this in. We'll worry about the more detailed sections in a minute when we switch to a smaller brush. For now, our priority is just getting the majority of the shape all blocked in. This is going to be so many leaves to shade, isn't it? But I'm going to approach it the same way I do hair, and it won't get overwhelming. Now just doing all these kind of slightly more detailed bits because we need the sharp edges. So many leaves. Yeah, it's the perfect character for the start of autumn for sure. Which I am very much ready for. I've been waiting to crack out the hot chocolates again. I'm a very much a hot chocolate person. I don't really drink. I sometimes drink tea, but not really, and I never drink coffee, so hot chocolate is always my hot drink of choice. And you need it to be the right time of year for hot chocolate. You really do. Right, got any more little sharp bits? Yeah, we've got a couple. Okay, and now we also have this bit down here. I do like my timing. I love doing that Necromancer Witch. She's definitely one of the most fun characters I've had. I basically love things that are very thematic, and I enjoy doing something different. So if I've been painting one thing for weeks and then you kind of give me a commission for something completely different, it'll probably become like my favorite thing. Because I like to keep things fresh. Like, this character is like a nice break from painting lots of armor, but then I'll go through a period of painting fancy robes, and I will long to paint armor again. So, just like, you know, it's like a fresh view. Let's just fill in that little bit there. Oh, that was also yours. Yeah, that was a great commission. It was very different. Also, I will always enjoy goth characters. That's another secret hack, a Rachel hack, if you will. Okay, let's fill that in. Whoops. Let's fill that in. Nope, let's not do it like that. Let's try again. Yay. Okay, now let's get rid of the little white lines. I think I've worked out the method I want to use for this hair. I've been kind of mulling it over whilst I've been blocking in the basic colors. I think we're gonna use the approach I usually use for when I do hair that's kind of like got an ombre or like gradient to it. But the first thing we need to do is just tidy up the skin layer everywhere where it's kind of gone over the lines or needs a little bit of tidying up. Just taking it back a little bit. like so. The eyebrow almost blends very slightly into the hair there, which is intentional. And yeah, I think that's okie dokie. Okay, so we do need to just whoop there and there. Scientific term, whoop. And I think we're ready to begin. So, we need to make sure this layer has been locked. I love my goth characters, okay. I have a few I'll be working on in the not too far distant future. So we're going to start with the more kind of golden tones at the base. So this area here, which is sort of that start of autumn tone. And then we make our way through the kind of richer, orangier, fiery colours. And we're going to end with a very bright red fiery colours. And I'm probably also going to use this kind of red, orange, fiery colour for like the tips of some of the leaves. So not all the leaves are necessarily going to be perfectly blended into the gradient. And then as we get right down to the bottom, it'll kind of be a little bit toasted, a little bit like almost like burnt at the ends, just to keep that gradient moving. And so what we're going to do now is we're actually going to make that a more organic gradient, like so. And then we can mess around with it, because we can. So for example, I might increase the saturation, I might make it a bit darker so it contrasts with the skin. I might shift it this way a wee bit, which I actually kind of like. Bearing in mind the shading is going to be adding more pinks and purples. Then I'm also going to recolor the line art to make it really quite light up here. And then darker as we move down. And that is our starting point for the hair. So what we're going to do is, once again, it's time for that beautiful multiply layer to return. And we're actually going to make sure this one's quite saturated. We're going to fill the whole thing in. And we're gonna just start erasing. And I'm trying to decide if I think I will try use my hairbrush to start with and see if I like it, because it's just so nice for these sharp ends. I think I do. And we're just gonna erase shadows on every single leaf by hand until we're done. And that is how we, that is the process. There is no quick cheat, there is no fast way to do this sort of thing. Just toil. And then in places where I haven't defined each and every leaf, that's fine. We use the light to do that for us. You can use this to define all the leaves that don't exist yet. Do I prefer painting detailed ruffled clothing or armor? Again, it really depends on what I've had a lot of lately. So if for example, right now, I've done a lot of armor recently. So I'm excited to paint fancy clothing and dresses and frills and all of that malarkey. However, once I've done that for a while, I'll be like, oh, please, would someone give me some armor? As a general rule, though, my favorite thing to paint is usually, like, fancy robes. And, like, I'm a big fashion history nerd, and I really, really like 14th and 15th century clothing. So the era of like, houppelons. Houppelons are my favorite. I don't see enough houppelons. Men in tights, basically. I love my little Faye Midsummer Night's Dream boys. and I like them to have their leggies out. I also love gowns from this period. The really long, stately, trailing gowns. Oh, it all makes me very happy. Yeah, 16th century is really gorgeous as well. I also, hilariously, the type of costume I own the most of is Regency. I have a whole rack over there full of Regency waistcoats and shirts because I do a lot of Regency period LARPing. It's absolutely not my favorite period of fashion history. It's just the one that people seem to like to dress up and do and run events for. So it's the one I have the most of. I do have quite a lot of more high medieval stuff as well that I've made like myself for various things. I just wish I had more of an opportunity to wear it. I should just design my next D&D character to wear some of the clothes I have so I can cosplay them really easily. So yeah, you can kind of see how this technique goes ahead to create kind of a lot of these leafy shapes. And we'll continue doing that down here. Although a bit more sparingly because this area is naturally going to be more in shadow than the areas up top were. Okay, and now once we've added light, we can do the same with shadow. So making sure we are selecting from our little shadows and highlight gradient. I'm going to take quite a saturated shadow tone, and we're going to work through adding deeper shadows in. And this brings some, as you can see, some of those orangey tones back, because when you put pink shadows over golden tones, you get nice rich reds and oranges. And all of the autumn tones that we're here for. And then some places you can really sort of create kind of shadows to give individual leaves a bit more volume. And this is how you kind of get it to look more like leaves and less like traditional hair. And really get that autumn vibe. And then obviously we've got quite a big shadow from the horn that's just kind of coming over here. We can also work that in, along with the shadows of the leaves themselves. And then it's just a matter of sort of continuing that process down throughout the hair. And there are some areas where we'll naturally have more of these shadows, close to the neck and by the ear, for example. And we can really kind of get that nice definition of all of these leaves this way. It is tiring, I'll give you that. But it's worth it. It takes time, but it looks really nice in the end, so. But that's, you know, such is the way with many art techniques. It's just nice to work with such bright colours. I love colour! Woo! And whilst I love greens with all my heart, I've actually done quite a lot of blues and greens lately. So it's nice to kind of have something different. I haven't played with oranges like this for a while, but I have a few commissions coming up which are going to use a lot of fiery colours. So I'm excited to work on those and show you guys what I'll be working on. that lovely, lovely kind of shape and definition. As we go down here, I'm actually going to use a darker shadow so these really stand out. And this is basically the same approach I'm going to use for the leaves on her dress. And more or less that'll be the technique I'm using for the majority of this piece, because the majority of this piece is leaves. But I'm glad this particular brush seems to be working quite well, so we'll stick with this for rendering the leaves. Okay, there you can kind of see her glorious fiery mane of hair. I'm gonna come in with a slightly darker shadow in a few places down here. Just because we're gonna have a bit more shadow down here next to the skin. So I really want that to come across. Yeah, it's good. Okay, and now we can do sort of the reverse thing. We're going to go back to the overlines layer. We're going to grab the lightest colors, and we're going to do a little bit of just highlighting some of the edges. We're going to do this with the same brush, but like a smaller version of it. And again, this just helps if we want some of the leaves to really kind of stand out. This is how we do that. Again, it just makes it a little bit more dynamic and gives it more depth. Think of these like frosted tips. As we make our way down, we can use colors that are from further up rather than using that same super bright yellow all the way down here. You see that kind of creates quite a nice little effect. We don't want to overdo it, so I'm probably, whoops, going to leave it like that for now. And there's a lot of other things we can kind of play around with. We can mess around with things like saturation and other details, but for now I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to go back and pull the reference up to see if there's anything else I want to add around the face right now. But no, for the moment I am quite happy. So I think the next thing to do is we're going to carry on with the shading. There are some things we could do. We could up the saturation of the shadows, so you can kind of see what upping that shadow saturation does. It's quite fun. I think we'll just do it a tiny bit for now. Then grabbing that color, it's time to add some shading to the collarbone and around the arms. So making sure all my settings are where they're supposed to be. Our main task here is we want the skin to look nice and smooth, in contrast with the leaves, which are comparatively a lot more jagged. Now the shape of the kind of undershirt kind of follows her collarbone, so we don't really need to work in the collarbone specifically. I'm more going to be focusing on the shadows created by the garment itself. And what I might actually do is I need to trim this bit here, because this is a little bit messy. There we go. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Whoops. No, not there we won't. Yes. But now, well, I'll correct that bit in a minute. like so, and just like I said, correcting that bit of skin. Whoop. No, here. I'll remember where that was, I said to myself, and then I didn't. Right. And there's a little bit more we can do here. What I'm kind of doing is just adding in the hint of where the underarm is. And then obviously, as with anywhere, we're adding just a little bit of a blending to soften things out a bit. And then if we want to really chase it back at all, we just grab the white paintbrush and, like I say, chase it back. And then what we can also do, if we want that kind of brighter little bit of color, we can do that. So for example, on the kind of top parts of the shoulders, maybe wanting that slightly brighter tone, adding that in and blending. Because I kind of want to start working on her undershirt, because I really want to start bringing in these nice contrasts. And her undershirt is going to be black. Proper, nice, burnt, brownish black. So we're actually going to start with a very dark red. I'm going to call this shirt, it's really not a shirt, is it? But for the purposes of now, it is. And we'll start working in those blocking colours. And I'm really looking forward to the contrast between this black, the pale kind of greenish skin, and the orangey hair. This is going to make me very happy. It's just nice colour palette design. It's colour theory, I guess. Who knows what colour theory actually means? Not me. Too self-taught for all that. This is once again going to mean playing a challenging game of colour by numbers all around the edges of the outer leaves, which are going to be more of the kind of the orangey tones for the outside of the gown, and then this underlayer using the black, which is almost like it's almost more of a leotard than a shirt. I don't know why I called it a shirt, because it goes right down to the lower half of the abdomen and under the crotch. It's just a really cool costume design in general. I don't often get outfits that are quite so high fashion, which makes a nice change. We love high fashion. Well, we don't love high fashion, but it's fun to paint. Yeah, which is why it's fun. Which is going to mean I'll be zoomed in on a crotch again for a few seconds. But such is the labours of art. Let's just, come on, play with me in the space. Sometimes Photoshop doesn't want to play, and that's no good. That's no good at all. All right, let's carry on up this side. Nearly there. And then this kind of dark black is going to be the same color we use for the boots and the long kind of elbow length gloves as well. Yippee for contrast. Yes, fashion indeed. And as I say, the more blood, sweat, and tears I pour into this now, going nice and carefully around all these leaves, the less work it makes for me later. Wonderful. So let's now go ahead, tidy up these little white edges. I'll probably get the next VOD uploaded to YouTube pretty soon, because I want to try and keep that as a regular upload now, rather than forgetting and then doing it once every few months. Which, let's be honest, is probably what will happen, but I'll try my best to be organized. I really will. And at some point I might just like stream some chill Genshin. Just exploring the new region. It's so beautiful. Okay, so let's tidy up from those bits of skin. You can see where the skin has been a little bit messy up here. Oh, back into Druid. Yeah, it's hard. I'm the same. I'm like, hey, do I want to be another goth or do I want to be cottagecore? Because these are my two modes. Lately goth has won out, except my main goth character inadvertently became quite cottagecore. Not through particular any intent of my own, it just sort of happened because I accidentally made a pact with a thing that's definitely Fae and not a demon. So that wasn't intentional, but that happened. Right, they're definitely my genders. Yeah. Yeah, so I've actually got, tell you what, I can give you a sneak peek. I actually got these antlers that I need to actually paint up, which are gonna be, you can't really see on my camera, but anyway, they're cool as hell. They're antlers, you know. Whoa. They're gonna be for my VTM character. So you can see why this started off as goth, and now isn't. So, yeah, he's in a whole situation. So I gotta paint them up and get them ready for the next session of that game. I really intended to be goth as well. I had, you know. Right? Like, there's not much more of a safe goth kind of game than VTM. And yet, the definitely the Fae got involved, and it's all weird. Well, again, definitely not my fault. I am blameless for everything that happens next. Okay, so we have this undershirt. It's looking fierce. We can kind of mess around a little bit with the tones we're going to have here, because obviously we're going to end up painting in the highlights and shadows and everything. But since I'm kind of in the experimental phase here, I'm kind of playing with the idea of using bluier highlights for this. And then the brown as shadows. I'm not sure, we'll see. I kind of like the idea of this one being a reverse and being a little bit colder. Also, you kind of get the colder, bluier elements sometimes with the silver birch, so we'll see. I'll do some experimenting. But it's also sometimes just really chill to just vibe something out, which makes zero sense. But just to, like, test. Obviously, we've got, like, the bust there, where we're going to have some natural kind of shadow forming underneath. And the cleavage is kind of going around there. So that's kind of like our shape for the cleavage. Then there'll be kind of like a dip of slight shadow here, where the collarbone is. So that will naturally have a bit more shadow in it. Should then kind of blend back and in. again, blending the bottom of the shadow on the cleavage as well, and also the top, just a bit, because we don't want these shadows to be too harsh. Ivy, I don't know what you mean. I've never done anything wrong in my life. My character is totally innocent of all wrongdoing. But yeah, I think all the shading for this pie is going to be extremely chill and experimental. Kind of working out, because we've got the leaf texture, but then it's also, you know, quite flat and close to the body, so we'll be working that out as we go. But since we're here, we might as well start working into the other places it needs to go. Because this black is the same tone we're going to have for these gloves. And for the shoes. So might as well go ahead and pop them in. And I'm just going to double check the reference. So, her fingers are not gloved, which I thought they weren't, which is, as you can see, why I left them out. Because past me was clearly paying attention. Yay, past me. Hey, Ilaran! Welcome. Always lovely to have you here. And because I am kind of obligated to say this as a reminder, if you have enjoyed the stream so far and you enjoy my artwork, please do consider dropping a following my channel or subscribing. Honestly, it makes a massive difference, and as I'm quite a small streamer, every single sub makes a big difference, and I appreciate it very, very much. Obligated advertisement out of the way. Yeah, we're getting the gang back together, guys. Thank you so much for the follow, Draconis Rage. It's so nice having, like, all the people who used to be in channel come back. And then also all these new people as well. It's been really lovely. Okay, just gonna move up. Okay. Tiny bit more, I think, here. Let's go ahead and fill those in. Whoops. I always forget to make sure everything's bounded up. There we go. Whoops. I'm being really messy right now. These are actually inadvertently really good Halloween colors as well, so I'm feeling really happy about that. And she's got a whacking great scythe, which is pretty Halloween-y if you ask me. Right, look at the size of this thing. A monster. Oh, art save reminder. Thank you so much, Chrissy. That is very well remembered and appreciated. Right, I think while we're here, we'll also block in her boots, because they're this same dark black. And then we're also going to have the same brown stripes for the silver birch are going to come down and pattern her leggies. But we're not going to worry about that just yet. That'll come later. People who have watched me paint full body characters before are probably used to my weird way of working, where I will kind of start at the top and then work my way down. So I tend not to worry too much about stuff towards the bottom of the image until towards the end. Whoops. Yeah, this is Christie's character, and it is an absolutely gorgeous design. I'm very fortunate to paint this one. Oh my god, Elaran. You came in late, but you came in strong. Yeah, this is one of the things I love. I love the color palette of this one and the contrast between the really light colors, the dark colors, and the really fiery oranges. do the other leg. Obviously, we've got a lot of areas here we need to tidy up the green, but we'll get there. It's a very fun idea. I love showing off other people's characters. It makes me very joyful. I actually had a character of mine who didn't have a dissimilar color palette to this, who was a Dhampir druid. People who have been on my channel for ages might remember her. Her name was Anemone. She had a similar pale greenish skin tone and a white dress. She was basically very much shamelessly inspired by Lady Dimitrescu's daughters, but wearing white instead of black. And her hair was a lot darker, but it was like a brown which had like a pinkish magenta rather than the fiery colors. But druids with these kind of color schemes make me very happy. Yeah, Anemone was a hoot. I barely played her for very long at all, but I would totally play her again if a campaign suitable came up. Alright, let's go and tidy up the skin. In all these little places where it's a bit messy. Oh my god, yes, Elleran, yes they were. They really were. I need to make an emote that's just like the pun police. Just for Elleran. Okay. And then we'll do the same here. Hey, final boss fight live! Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the raid. We love raiders here. It's probably hard to tell what you're looking at right now, but it is in fact leg. For a Dryad witch that we are painting right now to get into the autumn vibe. But yes, welcome. You are most welcome. I'm currently just tidying up some base colors. It is such a leg, right? Extreme leg energy. Just getting all those edges really satisfying. I'm sure there's a market for this and like some kind of visual ASMR. Some corner of TikTok. I unfortunately am way too much of a millennial to have any clue of how to use TikTok. I really should though. Okay. There we go. Nice and tidy. I do realize there's one thing we haven't done, which was very foolish of me. Her fingers! She doesn't have any right now. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's give her some fingers. So going back, making sure, yeah, opacity is all good. Just blocking her fingies. Feels wrong doing this when I already have layers underneath, because I usually like to do all the skin first, but hey, even I forget things sometimes. No, I forget things all the time. I've got a terrible memory. Okay. One hand, and let's do the other. Yeah, no, she's all of her her skin especially is gonna have silver birch. style markings when we get to that level of detail, especially like the legs are going to have a lot more striping on them to kind of match that silver birch pattern. Nails black, awesome, that is no problem, we can do that. Yeah, stripes are great. Stripes are very good. I'm at the point where I'm slow designing tattoos for Rook, because obviously he's always had top surgery tattoos over his scars. But I'm like, oh, he was in the Rachnos, he deserves some more tattoos. Right, so with skin all done, well, all blocked anyway, I'm just gonna do what I did earlier, which is to paint over the line art a little bit in a few areas, because our skin is very pale. I prefer kind of lightening up the line art as well, especially around her fingers. He does deserve more, doesn't he? I agree. So what we're going to do now is we're going to continue shading the skin, adding that detail in with the nice shadows, moving down the arms. And in some areas we want this to be a nice soft sort of gradient, like the kind of underarm area here. Nice and soft. And then in some areas you want the shadow to be a bit harsher, and this is going to be where we've got things like the leaves casting shadows. Like here. And kind of around the kind of little cornery bits of the gloves. And we'll do the same over here. One day, I would actually, I'm getting to the point in my life where I'm like, oh, you know what, I have got a few ideas for tattoos I like that would be quite personal and meaningful to me. And I'm like, how the hell, I have no idea where, like, I feel like I would just want to wait till I see an artist I adore who's available at some point, and having the money also for a tattoo is another thing that I would need, that I don't have. So it's one of those pipe dreams of one day, maybe, I'd love to get a kind of heraldic fox tattoo, because for reasons, foxes are very personal to me. I love foxes. But then I also really like abstract smoke tattoos. I'd love to have a smoke tattoo that wound around like one of my legs up to the hip. That would make me very happy. Yeah, I love foxes. But then the other thing is I'm like, oh, what if I'm a whiny baby and I can't kind of handle the pain of it? But it's really hard because sometimes I'm like, oh, I have a high pain threshold. And other times I'm like, no, I'm a baby. So I'm like, would I be able to cope? Especially for a larger tattoo? Who knows? I just don't know. But when I feel financially happy to have a tattoo, that's a problem I will get to then. For now, not so much of a problem. Yeah, I love foxes very much. Foxes are the best. Alright, let's go bring these shadows over to the other hand. Like so. Whoops. I'm kind of... I can't believe it. Kiba has decided not to grace us with his presence again at all tonight. I'm starting to think Kiba is camera shy. Or he just hears me endlessly yammering on and is like, I don't want to nap in a room where Rachel is just chatting to nobody. Which honestly, I get. He wants peace and quiet to sleep. But one of these days, he will come and visit. He might have actually been sitting in here earlier and I just didn't notice because he was behind me. That is also entirely possible. Just going to do a tiny bit of backlight on that lower part of the arm just to give it a wee bit of shape. I'm also going to just add a little bit of vibrancy because we kind of want the orange of the hair to almost just very slightly reflect onto the skin. When you have very pale skin like this, it does tend to pick up hues around it. Lovely. Then we're just going to grab the darker shadow for a few areas. Oh, he did he? Sneaky boy. What I really need to do is just have a few treats in here. Then watch him. He'll stick around the whole stream then. Yeah, exactly. You might as well not exist. If you can't give him attention, what are you even doing here? You can't throw his ball? Why do you exist? People exist only to throw his ball and give him treats and fuss. But mostly throw his ball. That's the most important thing in his life. He loves his bally. A little bit more shadow just around these fingers, especially where they're kind of against the scythe grip. There. Then we can go ahead and do the black nails. He actually has he's figured life out better than I have. Like, I've got to worry about mortgage and taxes. He just has to worry about who's throwing his ball. Sounds like a pretty good way to live to me. I'm going to use this brown as the basis for the nails and then highlight from there. Ugh, I love painting black nails. Just so good. Yeah, being an adult sucks. But at least, I'm trying to think of a silver lining now. At least I can go on a holiday when I want, I guess. Kind of. It's true, and Kiva still gets to go on holiday because we just bring him with us. So he really does have it all figured out. Just gonna make those little come out a little bit further there, just a little bit spikier. And then we can use this lighter color here to give them a little bit of a highlight. And then with the little brush, and the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just, because the nails go just a little bit further out than the finger, I just want to give a hint of the nail on the thumb over here. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with how she is coming along. I'm going to go ahead and save. And because we've been going nearly 2 hours, I think that's probably where we're going to finish up for tonight. So don't run away just yet, because I'm going to put some links in chat. Starting off with my socials. If you want to keep up to date with when I'm streaming and kind of what I'm doing when commissions are opening, all of that jazz, the best places to follow me are on Blue Sky and also on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty active on both of those. I tend to upload all my latest pieces of artwork if you want to keep up to date with them. So do give me a follow over there. Next up, I already did my YouTube earlier, so next up, if you do enjoy my work, if you've had a good time this evening, please do consider either just following this channel so you can find me in the future, or if you're feeling really generous, either subscribe here on Twitch or consider becoming one of my patrons over on Patreon. There are some benefits to both, both of which joining at any level grants you access to my Discord, where you can get art tips, talk about D&D, all of the above, and post your own art and kind of get feedback or not feedback, just to show it off if you want to. I also tend to give a lot of frequent updates on the Discord about my commission status. And if I'm doing any sort of emergency last, like, secret commissions, that sort of thing. They're not really that secret, but you know what I mean. And on Patreon, there are a few other benefits, such as getting in my commission priority queue. When I do open commissions, I tend to open to patrons first, and the last few times I've done this, my slots have completely filled up just from patrons. So if you want to make sure you get a commission from me, joining my Patreon is the best way to do it. And other than that, the music I've been using for today's stream is by an artist named Kai Engel. It's wonderful stuff. You can find it on the Free Music Archive, and it's really chill and atmospheric, so I highly recommend it. So I believe that is kind of... Nope, you're not getting my old DeviantArt. You're still not getting it. At this point, I consider it a challenge for you to try and find it. So take that as you will. But yeah, so see you next time. I'm probably not going to be on stream on Friday, so it's either going to be at the weekend or next week for my next stream. But until then, thank you all so very much for joining me. It's been a lovely, chill time hanging out with everyone. Sub goal for DeviantArt. I tell you what, we get to 100 subs and I will release the forbidden ancient DeviantArt from its shackles. There we go, there's a goal. Alright, see you everyone. Have a great night and stay safe and cozy until next time.